Thank you so much for your fantastic presentation. There was so much information in there. I know we've packed in, and there are a few questions in the chat that I know we've addressed some of them, or you've addressed some of them during your presentation. So I'm just going to pick a couple of them out. Um, One person's recently asked whether family finances get taken into account at all, and there was a comment from someone earlier on about being asked to contribute the £6,000 by the school. The family had been asked to contribute the £6,000. Is there anything that either of you would like to comment on that kind of matter of being asked to contribute as the family, or whether family finances are taken into account with an EHCP
Yeah,
at all?
I, I I would know family finances are not taken into account, so it's level for everybody. Um, I've never heard of a school asking a family to pay up front the first 6,000 unless it's an independent school. And that would be, yes, they will be. So if it's a local authority maintained school, yeah, whether
Mhm.
that's mainstream or whether that's a local authority special school,
Yeah.
um, then there's no requirement. But if you choose to send your child for private education to an independent school, then yes, they independent private schools expect the family to pay for the first 6,000. But I
Ah,
think
okay.
Laura's just put up Special Needs Jungle is a really good website as
Mm.
well that's can answer, give advice.
Great.
And I'm also trying very
Laura, did you have
quickly.
anything else to add?
Not that I think you've covered that, but I'm just looking through the chat and I'm popping in as many answers as I can. So
Thank
no,
you.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
the
We won't get to everyone. There
yeah,
was another
video
couple that
doesn't video
came up
doesn't cover.
just
Sorry, go
yeah.
on.
No, that was just another couple that sort of along the same theme about whether there was someone asked about whether EHCPs get turned down a lot, and someone else was asking, is there a sort of optimum time to apply for an EHCP, especially if a child is not
Okay.
severely sight impaired, if they're sort of registered sight impaired. They were mentioning that their child
Yeah.
struggles as they get older, so are they more
Yeah.
likely to get an EHCP when they're at secondary
Um,
school?
there's so many variables in it. I can see those questions. So one is
Yeah.
I think somebody said, do they have to do an assessment? No, they don't have to do an assessment, but they can only refuse to do an assessment if your child doesn't meet the legal test for being assessed. And it's a very low test. All it has to be is that the child has or may have a special educational need, which may benefit from that additional support. So they do turn them down an awful lot, but like I say, 98% of the assessment requests that are turned down are overturned at appeal, mediation, or tribunal, which makes you wonder why they bother turning them down in the first place, because obviously it just wastes a lot of local authority time and money. So yes, they can turn them down, and yes, they frequently do more and more with so many local authorities being under such severe sort of stringent financial conditions. So yes, they can. The other question was, what was the other bit of that? I've done the special sugar. They don't need to be severely sight impaired to
Mhm.
succeed. Lots of children who are sight impaired have education and healthcare plans, both with and without additional needs. So you can have a child who has the sight impairment because you can be, if you're on that, especially if you're coming near to that bit between sight impaired and severely sight impaired. But even if you're well into the kind of sight impairment, maybe your vision is, I don't know, 630 or something, which is a big reduction. You you still very often need adapted work, and you often can't see what's on the board. So lots and lots of children that we apply for are sight impaired and not severely sight impaired, and they do eventually get them. I mean, we see children who are severely sight impaired turned down for EHCP assessments, which I find quite appalling. Um, and also, can I just say there was a question about can we mention that the sectors of the plan have all been mixed up? Yes, they plan education and healthcare plans are done differently by every single local authority, and they do mix them up because you've got these very clear sections A to J. But then what they do is they take each kind of bit of your child's development and they put an objective like, this child will be able to, reach level blah blah blah, and then they put the provision that matches that objective. Like to do that, they'll have everything in large print, blah blah blah. So they do mix them up, and they're horrible. But the area we cover actually covers 8 different local authorities, all in the southwest of England. They're all different. They're all horrible. Some of them are written well, some of them are written really badly, some of them are barely decipherable. But I know that we're going to talk about that more in the next session, particularly about things like what has to be in the HCP, that they have to be specific. There's no point saying this child will be seen by the QTVI. It has to say this child will be seen by the QTVI 3 times per term for a minimum of half an hour a time, or whatever the decision is. So that's really important as well, to realise that the HCPs, but we'll cover that in the next session, I think.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, there was another question as well where their school had provided quite a long form for them to complete, and they were asking whether you'd still recommend going down the letter writing route or stick with this form that the school's provided. That's a question from Grace, if you're looking for it in the chat.
What do you think, Sophie? I would say if you're able to do the form and it's well structured, then it would be helpful. You don't have to, but if the form seems to ask the right questions about your child, then it can be helpful, but you don't have to do it, no.
Yeah, I think the important thing with the form, depending how that form is structured, because I've seen some where they're phrasing their questions where you are supposed to be talking about all the positive things your child can do, rather than actually what the challenges are. So if you'll be filling in a form, that's fine, that's framed that way, but do then put the challenges as well and go off piste and put what you need to put in, i.e. how is my child's vision impairment or other disabilities impacting on them? How is it impacting on their cognition and learning? How is it impacting on their communication, in interaction, their social, emotional, mental health? You know, how are they accessing the curriculum? So yeah, fill in the form by all means if that's what you think it would be easier to do, but go back to those slides and make sure you're hitting those bullet point markers of, well, what are the challenges for my child? What provision or adaptations or adjustments do you think your child needs that you want explored, or somebody in a report has recommended that's not being provided? Yeah.
I can also say there's another question.
If in doubt, just use the letter format that we're sharing with you.
There's another question that comes up such a lot, which is, does the child have to be behind in their educational attainment to be successful with an EHCP? No child have to kind of prove for themselves to need an EHCP. It's actually, there's a legal right to an EHCP under certain circumstances. I would say it's incredibly unlikely that a child who's severely sight impaired shouldn't have an EHCP. And if you've been refused assessments, I don't know whether you have gone to mediation and appeal and tribunal, but you probably should, because there's a reasonably high chance, I wouldn't promise, that a child who is severely sight impaired, even if they are top of the class, should have that support, because A, will they stay top of the class without it? And B, often that's because there's a lot of parental input. If any consolation, my daughter has just graduated from Oxford University, and she was always top of the class, and she had an EHCP. It's the one thing that we had no trouble with. She got the EHCP. This is like a long time ago. It was the school that then let her down. So yes, you don't, absolutely. There is nowhere in law that says that you have to be 2 years behind for your child to be assessed. Absolutely not. Don't let them tell you that. And the same thing as someone else here has also said, I think it's Lulu who said, your child has severe sight impairment, is under the, I presume you mean under the autistic spectrum. Whether they get one-to-one support will depend entirely on what's written in the EHCP. If it says in his EHCP he needs one-to-one support, he would have it. It might be that I know my daughter had one-to-one support for some things, but she managed actually quite well with shared support with other things. But actually, I think if you're concerned he's not getting the support he needs, then that's a case of asking for the EHCP to be amended. And often, I mean, children who are Braille users really always need one-to-one support, and quite often more than one-to-one support. They need a person with them all the time, as someone else working on their resources. And
the one-to-one support should come through from a professional report. Local authorities don't like writing it in, admittedly, but what you need to look at is the quantity of times they need. Where does that one-to-one support, where should it be targeted? Like you've just said, it might not be all lessons, but it might be, you know, within numeracy, it might be within the sciences, it might be,
Yeah.
so it depends on, it's very individual according to your child's needs.
And there's
you
a
know,
final
at what they require. But
there's a question about school only focusing on academic support and the child struggling with self-esteem and making friends. Again, that could be put in the EHCP under the section about social, about communication interaction and social and emotional well-being, is that you can actually request. I've seen people get put counselling and all sorts of things in their children's EHCPs away with it. But they certainly do. These children often really struggle with friendships. I know it's a very sad reflection that my daughter left her secondary school and went to a specialist VI school as a teenager, and she had to board, and I missed her. And she phoned. We spoke to her about 3 weeks later, and she said, "Do you know something, Mum?" She said, "It's like I've gone from being the least popular person in the school to the most popular person in the school." And I've never forgotten that. And I said to her, "Sweetie, you weren't ever the least popular person in the school, but that's how she felt." And when we moved her, she suddenly realised that it wasn't her, which is quite sad. I'll probably start crying if I carry on, so I'll shut up now.
Well, thank you both. I know we've not quite gotten to all the questions, but I think what we can do is we can save these and use them and hopefully address them in the next 2 sessions as well if we haven't gotten to all of the questions today. I think we have addressed a lot of them, but yeah, so we won't lose them, don't worry. We've noted them down and we'll get to them at some point. So I'm gonna round us up now. Thank you.
Ellen, can I just quickly, you did mention the one about what age. It very much is, I mean, on if they're getting, especially at prime, if they're getting really good provision in their primary school, in-school support, I would say when they get to year 5, that's when you need to be starting to look for an EHCP for secondary. If they haven't got one, I think that's really important.
Okay, so looking for one at year 5 if you're in
Definitely.
looking for secondary. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Laura. And thank you everybody for joining us as well for our first session of this EHCP Essentials series. We've covered so much tonight. We've covered what is an EHCP, who qualifies for one, how to apply for one, and what to do if your request is denied. We hope you're leaving feeling a bit clearer and a bit more confident about how to navigate this journey for your child. A huge thank you again to our speakers, Lynn and Laura. Your insights have been incredibly helpful, and we couldn't do this without your expertise. So thank you so much for giving up your time tonight. And just to say to everyone, remember that we are here for you beyond tonight. You can access tonight's presentation online on our website now, and the recording and additional resources that Lynn and Laura have both mentioned will be available to download from our website as well by the end of this week. We'd love to see you at the next session. So our next session in this series is called What Makes a Good EHCP and Who Can Help? And that's on the 4th of November. We also encourage you to explore our big bank of resources that we've got on our website and in other places as well, as Lauren and Lynn have both mentioned. They'll be noted in the resources that we share. Consider coming to our monthly parent support group, look into mentoring for your child, check out all the events that we have going on, and don't forget about our holiday flat in Scarborough as well. You can register for all of our events and find out about everything that we do on our website. And don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date. Finally, as a small charity, we rely on your support to keep offering these free services. So in December, we will be taking part in the Big Give fundraising campaign, and your contribution, no matter how small, will be crucial to help us continuing our work. So we'll share more details as we get closer to December. Before you go, when you close this Zoom meeting, a feedback form should pop up for you. And if you could take a moment to complete that for us, that'll really help us. Your feedback helps us make our events in the future better, and also ensure that we're meeting your needs in our events. So finally, thank you again to everyone for your time tonight and your attention. I hope you've all enjoyed it and found it really useful, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thank you, Ellen, for
Thanks,
hosting it.
everybody. Thank you.